All right, everybody. It is December 12th, 2024. Welcome to Scouching Live. I, of course, am your host, Will. We don't have any special guests today, just our normal guest, Mr. AJ Jadero,
I'm no
producer of the
guest.
show.
I'm no guest.
Yeah, I know. You're not a guest. You're an intruder. That's what you are.
I'm a mainstay.
Right.
Maybe I am an
Exactly.
intruder. I've worked my way onto this just to
Yeah.
be here.
You wouldn't stop bugging me, so I finally threw you a bone, and
Yeah.
here we
It
are.
took me 3 years to get to work with Will. Like, hey, I'll work for
Yeah.
free. I'll work for free. No.
Yep. Yep. Well, look at you now. Look how
Getting
far we've
paid.
come. Yeah, exactly. Well, anyway, welcome to the show. We got a good one for you today. We're going to be talking Owen Power. We saw the comments before the show about Adam Fantilli, so we took a look at him in the last little bit to see what's going on there. I'm wearing my McLaren F1 sweater today in celebration of coming second and fourth in the Formula One driver standings for this season. Looking forward to a strong 2025 from the boys in Papaya there, Lando Norris doing his thing and Oscar Piastri doing his thing. So another successful F1 season in the books. And anyway, AJ, you wanted to talk about the Leafs and doing the Leaf thing to another team.
Oh, it was hilarious watching that game against the Devils.
I didn't see much of it, so you'll have to fill me in because
They just got filled. They just got filled all night. They were
Oh yeah, weren't the shots like 25-2 at one point or something like that?
It was
And Toronto won
15-1 or to 2.
That's
and
awesome.
They got
That's
outshot, I think, like in the 30s to like 17.
Money Puck is in shambles right now.
Yes. I
Yeah.
even posted the deserve to win-o-meter in Discord and said Sheldon Keefe at his finest because it is true.
It is. Yeah, nothing more Sheldon Keefe than getting absolutely blasted on the shot, or absolutely blasting the other team shot-wise and losing the game. I mean, Anthony Stolarz, from what I saw.
Gross.
I mean,
so
you
gross.
want to talk about
so
you want to talk about free agent signings that have worked out extraordinarily well for a respective team. He must be up there, with the best of the best in this free agent class, right?
Yes, he's excellent. He's an excellent player. And I'm very happy. So this is why I know I can trust David Phillips, because David Phillips said last year before, like preseason, David Phillips was on this whole train for Anthony Stolarz. So I get it, and I'm a part of it. And David Phillips, you are the goalie god, all right? I fully admit. But your questions, we don't care.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's why he's with us and doing the goalie thing for us. By the way, he will be doing the goalie ranking, but it will not be coming out simultaneously with mine. It'll be a bit later, but obviously you'll be the first to find out when it's coming out. But I'm looking at the top names who were unrestricted free agents in the NHL this year. According to Sportsnet, right? They're top 12. Stamkos is number 1. That hasn't worked out.
No.
Marchessault, number 2, also has not worked out to this point. Montour, I've liked Montour in Seattle. I think it's been fine. Elias Lindholm in Boston is on here. That hasn't really worked out, I don't think. Matt Duchene, he's having a great year. Too bad he's injured, but that makes sense. Brett Pesce with the Devils. He's Brett Pesce, right? Kind of does his thing.
It's a good signing.
Yeah. Other than, but, Jake DeBrusk is on here. Chandler Stevenson's been pretty good with Seattle. But Stolarz has been unbelievable. Keeping the Leafs in games like goalies rarely do for Toronto historically. That.
Yep.
From what I saw of that game, I went, Toronto should be losing this game and it should be sad. But no, here we are. So,
and yet I knew they would win. I knew they would win because I saw Sheldon Keefe on the other side.
Yeah, the losing games you should win, name something more Sheldon Keefe. But when Toronto doesn't have Sheldon Keefe, do they do that still? I think sometimes, yes, but they did on the weekend losing to Pittsburgh. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
I already said that was refs. That was all refs, okay? when the authority's against you, it's hard to win, okay? And yes, I am. Yeah,
read the authorities. Read. Oh, God.
So, do you want to get to the authority? Well, I was trying to segue to something. I sounded stupid. But anyways, Owen Power. Why don't we just get there? because
Okay, so our experience watching Owen Power just before this game, was it better or worse than last night's episode of Survivor?
they were both equally entertaining, I would say.
Yeah, nothing is better than last night's episode of Survivor. That was amazing.
It
I
was
was having a
incredible.
rip roaring
Was incredible,
adventure. That
actually.
was, and I'm so mad that they split a finale into 2 parts. Like, that's not a finale. That's not what that means.
But
you can't take
ad revenue will. Ad revenue.
Whatever.
4
I mean, they
hours
must have
of a
known
finale.
editing it. They must have known editing it. That it's so sick that they can draw it out and people will still watch it because that's how good it's been. That's where I feel that, like, the editors were like, yeah, I guess we can do this because it's been so good. Like that. Anyway, neither here nor there. But yes,
can't wait
that was
for
a lot
like
more
an hour
entertaining.
reunion next show.
Yeah, yeah. So that was definitely an entertaining thing. Today, watching Owen Power, I mean, the reason we're doing this is because there's a lot of chatter on the internet box about him after last night. He had some, let's just say, moments that hit the internet and did well for all the wrong reasons.
Hey, but he got a point. He got a
point. Yeah, true. That's true. So he's good, right? But we went and looked and saw a game of his from the other day because we didn't want to watch the game everybody's talking about, right? So we went and watched a game from a few days ago against Utah. And I'll say this. I had Owen Power at 7 in 2021, and I came across, it was funny, when I saw people talking about Owen Power last night, I went and Googled my name with Owen Power just to see what pops up. And one of the first things that popped up was a Reddit post from the hockey subreddit with my video of why Owen Power, it was titled, my video wasn't titled it, but the Reddit post was titled, why shouldn't Owen Power go first overall? And the top comment was, I can't wait to look back in 4 or 5 years and see Owen Power be the 6th or 7th best player in this draft. And it's like, and that was like 4 years. That was before he got drafted or something. Anyway, I mean, I'm not, I'm not surprised by this, I guess, is what I'm getting at, right? Like, when I watched him as a draft eligible, I saw an interesting player, right? Like an intriguing rush quarterback, offensive defenseman who can push the puck up the ice on his own stick and really get moving, but had some real rough spots, in his own end and breaking the puck out through his passing and just like losing battles you should win, like the whole thing for me. And again, it's similar to like a Roger McQueen this year where I'm like, you're 6'6" and it doesn't feel like you know it enough, right? McQueen's a little better in this regard, I think, than Power was and still is. But like, how many times did we see Owen Power today face a physical situation and basically not do anything?
Every time he faced one.
Right. He wasn't really battling. Even situations where he got like body positioning. There was a play he gained body positioning on Clayton Keller and just kind of tied up his stick and stood there and just kind of lost the puck in his feet. Keller kind of knocked his stick out of the way and then off he was, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's stuff that I'm not, like last night, the clip that I saw was him, the clip that I saw last night that kind of set this off for me was him on a defensive zone retrieval, and he reversed it behind his back, behind the net, and Mika Zibanejad was just standing there, and they got a scoring chance out of it. And
sounds like Mika Zibanejad just standing there.
Well, yes. There you go. Haha, zing.
Yep.
But like that, like the defensive zone retrievals for Owen Power, those are things that, like, when I do these video room episodes, like I go out of my way to mention, like, if I'm being a little critical of something that happens, it's not because it happens one time, right? Like hockey's chaotic. It's a crazy sport. Bounces happen. You trip over your feet for a split second. You don't get the best stride, whatever. It's excusable, right?
You have Anthony Stolarz in net saving every puck.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. But when things add up over time, and you start going, okay, I've noted that as a thing that happened. I've noted it again as a thing that happened. I've noted it as a thing again that happened. You kind of then have to go, this is probably an area that needs to be examined.
Mm-hmm.
And with Power, that was it, right? Like in his own end, just settling the puck, getting it moving offensively, especially through his passing, was a huge issue, right? and nobody was really talking about it, right? Like, I don't remember anybody really having anything that critical to say about his game, right? He was huge and hulking and fast and skilled and
Victor
dynamic,
Hedman
and like people were
2.0,
talking about Victor Hedman and stuff.
baby.
And this is a frustrating thing for me in this line of work, right? Because it makes it sound like I really don't like Owen Power as a player, but that's not really the case. It's just that I don't see him the same way as what everyone is sort of out there talking about, right? Like, if you look at his page on Elite Prospects, he was ranked number 1 by everybody except Elite Prospects, who had him at 3, and I had him at 7. And I remember Elite Prospects at the time, I talked to them about this, and they agreed with me on a lot of things. They're like, yeah, he's a little less refined, and like there's other stuff that is a bit problematic, and other players, they had, I think it was Eklund and Beniers ahead of him. Totally fair. I totally understand that.
Did the Dauber
And
team
so
have Owen Power? Because I don't remember because I was at Dauber at the time, and I don't remember him being one, but he might have been. I think we probably had Beniers at one.
Dauber's not listed on their archive from then.
Fair enough.
So I don't know.
Well, I'm pretty sure.
Probably not.
I'm
on
pretty
yours.
sure
I don't know.
we had. We definitely had Fabian at 3 because I pushed very hard, and I think
you would have crossed the Rubicon on that. I think
I did.
Caused a scene.
And
yeah.
I think I did, and I think that's why Fabian was higher. Maybe on
right.
It might have been. Could have been. It's very possible.
So yeah, like so it's like when I'm sort of critical of players that everyone's being super positive about, it's not because I don't like them. It's just that I see things differently. And so when those things end up over time, people pay more attention, not saying that people aren't paying attention, but this is why you have to really pay attention to how a player plays when the game is at its most boring, right? Like, how many times was it that Power seemed to struggle just settling the puck along the boards in that game we watched?
A lot.
Quite a few times. How many times did he take a few extra seconds to read the ice and fire it at someone's shins just inside his own blue line?
A lot.
Right? Like, a few times. And it's like, those things stick out when it's a really high-level situation, right? Like in the NHL. But you don't get to see that as much when you are sort of a casual observer in the draft season, right? You kind of you see the highlights, you focus on what everyone's talking about, like you get primed to believe this big picture thing of a guy. Power was a guy that I remember being like, I feel like he's probably another 2 years in college. Like, I wanted him, and I said this in the report, which is unfortunately unlisted, but in the report, I went back and listened to it. Like, the thing about him was like, I could see what he could be. And an NHL team seeing the same thing and turning him into that, I don't know if that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's not what happens, then it's problematic, right? Because when I saw Owen Power, I want him at college for at least another season or 2, maybe. And I want him being the guy. Like, give him lots of reps with the puck, breakouts, skating with it, creating in the offensive zone, work on his skating, get him more agile, get him to be more of that finesse style, because that's when I thought he was at his best.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like he's kind of sort of stayed the same and been this, and a little bit more even reserved than he was from what I remember, where it's, he's more standard issue, gigantic defenseman who has a bit of confidence and can step up in the offensive zone here and there. Like, he's on pace for a 53-point season, right? Like, it's not like he's bad, right? But I think it is a bit shocking for people when a player who goes first overall and is at the time basically unanimous as a first overall pick, you see him over a large sample of NHL games and you start going, oh, like that, this guy might not be the game changer that he was portrayed to be. And now I think you have people overcorrecting to like, he's a bust, right? He's terrible. He's not an option. He's blah, blah, blah,
yes.
Which I don't believe either.
Hence why is Power a bust in the thumbnail?
Correct. Exactly.
Because I like to make light of overreactions. It's why we had an episode called "Does Lane Hudson Suck Now?" Because clearly he does not.
Yeah, he does not, right? Like, Power is fine. It's just the issues that I've always seen in his game were on display last night. they're on display in the game we saw in Utah. Whenever I've seen Buffalo play, I feel like I look at him and I go, yep, that's Owen Power. And
He
I feel
sticks
like
out.
there are other players that like the big problem for me though is the fact that he's so big and hulking out there, and the mobility, I think, like he's a great example. I think I said this to you before the show. He's a
Mhm.
great example of the difference between a fast skater and a mobile skater. Like you watch his footwork and you watch him move around, and granted, he's a 6'6", 22-year-old, right? He barely turned 22, so he's still very young. But getting around the defensive zone was a bit of a challenge for him, monitoring those rushes and closing gaps. And like, how many times did we see him on a defensive zone entry sort of just stick his stick out and float backwards? And
Every
I think it
single
was
time,
was it
unfortunately.
Schmaltz, I think, on an entry, who just pulled the puck back and held it. And Power didn't pivot to skate forwards into him. He didn't lean further forward
Mhm.
to go for a stick check. He didn't sweep the stick. He just stayed motionless. And it's like, that is where I'm a little bit like, oh, that's a bit problematic, right? But it's not all bad. But you have a gigantic defenseman who doesn't really play that way. And in my view, that's okay. But the rest of the picture that would have made that, to me, makes them so interesting, those offensive tools, they're just not there as much as I thought they would be. Like that I'm going to quarterback this myself because I can protect the puck. I'm big. I can skate in a straight line really
Mhm.
well. All that stuff. I didn't see much of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Do you have anything else to add about him? Because I was interested. It was interesting seeing him. Absolutely. It
Well,
was very interesting.
in the game we watched, and I was also putting together the some of the stuff for the stream, so I'm not fully confident in saying this, but I didn't ever see him really rush the puck the way that, like, and
Right.
that's his brand. That's his thing. That's where he goes and he does well. But like the D zone passing and making decisions is still just as it was when I was watching him in 2021. He struggles under pressure and he just does what comes to his mind after overthinking it and just lets go of the puck at the most inopportune times and hands over a goal sometimes. It's like watching soft serve ice cream because like he doesn't do much. Maybe not watching soft, but like I kind of equated him to soft serve ice cream because he's kind of soft when it comes into like dealing with physical pressure. Because there are times where guys are in close on him, and all he's got to do is move his big frame to try and dislodge them. And he doesn't have to do it very hard, but he's not doing it at all. And then because guys are coming at him on the forecheck, and he's taking a long time to process what he needs to do, he just kind of serves up the puck to them. So maybe not the best analogy, and I tried to make it work, but didn't do
No, I
it so
mean,
well. It was kind
I
of
know.
like Owen Power getting pressured by somebody on the forecheck and not doing great
Yeah.
with it. But I'm not trying. Look, I'm also not trying to be super negative because I feel like I've come out and been all gung ho and man, he sucks. Like that's not what I'm actually saying. It's just there's part of me that gets amped up because I was with Will on this whole thing with about Owen Power not being the number one guy. Obviously, my guy shouldn't have gone first overall either, and he didn't. But it's neither here nor there. But like, there's still a talented hockey player there. It's just we have to now adjust our expectations with this guy, and it's like, can you turn him into more of a Dougie Hamilton type of guy? Maybe, but he needs to be more confident. And I don't know what is going to help him get there. He's also never going to be the number one guy in Buffalo because Rasmus Dahlin is just better.
Right.
So
They've
it's
lost
tough.
8 in a row. I didn't
Yes.
realize that.
Yes.
They've lost 8 in a row.
Yes.
Like that is rough.
Did you not watch Craig Button's Montana Smokehouse feature on them? Come on, Will. How did you not know that?
I didn't get to the smokehouse yet. But no, I mean,
funny.
like, I don't know. Again, like, I hate being like really critical because I don't like to just crap on players, especially like I'm not an NHL player, like I'm nowhere
We
close,
never will be,
and I never will be. But like the thing is, there are millions of dollars at stake here, right? Like the Buffalo Sabres had the first overall draft selection and are still in the basement. I will also say, because someone mentioned it also in the comments, his partners have not been very good, right?
That's a fair
Like
assessment.
he was playing with Henry Jokiharju, who I'm sorry is not a top pair, NHL defenseman, right? Like Connor Clifton in your defense group is not an elite group of a defenseman, right? But like that's the thing, that's also the problem, right? Like you're giving Owen Power a job that is extraordinarily hard to do
Yes.
really well. And it's like you set like this is why I talk about expectations and where you set your bar in a draft so carefully, where it's like, look, I thought Owen Power would make a really good second pair guy who can quarterback a power play, put up some points, you deal with the defensive issues and you get something really good out of him because of what he naturally brings to the game. And it's like, but you say that and it sounds like you're a hater, right? But now it's like, well, the expectation is, well, he's a top pair guy. He's going to be the guy. He's going to do this and this and this. And it's like, well, I would rather have the expectation be like, look, we think in the NHL, which is really hard, behind a really good pair of experienced veteran defensemen, you can be a good second pair anchor who can play offensively and do well for us, right? But, and then if he passes that, if he plays well enough where he gets there and he's still showing like he can, great. That's a bonus, right? Like that's found money. So, and there's no harm in that, honestly, because the NHL is really hard. Like you're going to be a really good NHL level player, regardless if you're on the first or second pair. It's just the job above is extremely high compared to the one where I kind of estimated him to be.
Yep.
And in the draft, right? Like he's a good, like a lot of people are talking about the offense, but like he's another example to me of why over the years I've kind of looked at defensemen and through the lens of like, I don't really care that much about how you score. It's about how you defend first, right? Like I need guys who can score for sure, but really good defensemen in the NHL aren't always really high point producers.
Yep.
It's a lot of guys who can skate and shut down play defensively, move the puck out of their own end really well, skate it, pass it, whatever. And in the offensive zone, it's a bonus, and right? The rest is a bonus.
And I think that's just a philosophy thing for both of us. I'm okay if people want to be more bullish on more offensive-leaning defensemen who are wizards that have a lot of problems. Case in point, Evan Bouchard. All right?
Right.
That guy is
100%.
ridiculous. The good and bad. And he is so much fun to watch because of it. And I also feel like, at some level, when we're coming out and saying these things, I do feel like it's unfair to Owen Power because he's not the one who's been tooting his own horn and hyping himself up as the first overall pick.
1 million. He honestly, let me stop you for a second. He made the decision to go back to college after going first overall in the NHL draft. I remember that. And I went, I like that. That is a great decision. Like no disrespect to him at all. That is what he needed. And that is probably a difficult decision to make, right? Like, because it is generally up to the player. Where they go, I could sign my entry-level contract and take home 6 figures right away. Or I could go back to school. What do I want to do?
I would not be going back to school.
I think he made the right choice, and, great. You're right. Like, in that sense, like, hugely mature decision from him, I thought. And I thought that was a great thing. But sorry, I interrupted you. You can continue.
No, it's all good. I just think that when I'm coming out as aggressive as I am, it's more me dunking on the people who didn't see it our way, okay? Not on Owen Power.
Right.
All right? Nothing. Guys, I think he's a good player. Have his results been good? No. Is there a lot of room for him to grow? Yes. They just need to work at it. I don't think it's that hard for a guy who's got, like, there's going to be challenges, but I feel like if you coach it into him, he's going to be better.
Yeah.
If you focus on something, you can get better at it. So, and he's an elite level talent in terms of just like, well, I mean that about most NHLers, because you don't play in the NHL if you aren't really, really capable, at
Yeah.
least to some extent. Even if you're well below the average, you're still like the average NHLer. You're still well above
Oh
everybody
my
else.
God. You're
So,
insane.
so I feel like there is a lot of room to grow for him. They just got to change what his role is going to be. And I
Yeah.
don't know that, like, try and get him to a level where he's not a complete disaster defensively, because that's what he has been in these 2 games I've seen, a complete disaster. And I
Right.
don't like saying that, but it's got to improve with him. And I don't see how he's going to be the guy on this Buffalo Sabres team unless Rasmus Dahlon's like, nah, see ya, guys. I want to go
Right.
win a cup and add to it, because that was also part of Craig Button's thing. Look at all the guys who have left here and won Stanley
Yeah.
Cups.
Yeah.
Ryan O'Reilly, Sam Reinhart, Jack Eichel. All left, all won Stanley Cups. Oh, yeah, Brandon Montour. Right?
Yeah.
All these guys have had tremendous success elsewhere.
Yeah. Like, yeah. I mean, I'm not, and I don't want to like seriously pick on these guys too much, but like, where would this team be hypothetically? Say what you will about Jack Quinn, but the Buffalo Sabres right now with Marco Rossi, Matthew Beniers, and Liam Ogren or Brad Lambert on it, or who did they take in 2023? Oh, Benson. That was a great
That's
pick.
a good one.
You know, Benson's a great pick, but like Oliver Moore was on the board too. Gavin Brindley was there. Like, I love Zach Benson though, so I don't really care.
Yeah.
But like if you have Matthew Beniers, and
Rossi.
and Marco Rossi sort of anchoring that middle of the ice as your young centers instead of Jack Quinn as a scoring winger, which, you know, again, he can score, right? He can score.
Mm-hmm.
But they seem to really struggle with line driving play.
Or let's not do Jack Quinn, right? Just because they've got Tage Thompson at center, so I'm gonna pick somebody else. Seth Jarvis. Let's say you have Seth Jarvis and Matthew Beniers instead.
But, you know, you can't also play this game because it's like, well, what if a different team drafted that player and things went differently, you know? But like,
it's a fair point, but I'm just saying, like, because Tage Thompson is going to be a center on that team, right? And they probably would not play Marco Rossi. So that's more where my thinking is, or like they wouldn't play him high up. I don't know.
You know, but like still, you have 3 great players up the middle there.
Yeah.
In any case, you know,
that is
like
true.
Toronto had Nazem Kadri as their 3rd line center, you know, for a while, right? Like, who cares, you know? So anyway, it's, you know, it's neither here nor there, even though that's who they would have ended up with if I was king of the world. But it was interesting watching him because it's like it's another example of so many things of that I say that it's like it's like the argument of, okay, he might be behind some of the guys that are in this draft that go after him, but he'll catch up, he'll develop, he'll catch up and do this and this and this. It's like, okay, true, fair, you know, he'll develop, but so will they, right? Like, and when I watch Owen Power in the NHL, a lot of it is like, this is what I remember from when you were in college. I remember all of these things that I feel like I'm taking crazy pills when everyone has this guy at number 1, comparing him to Victor Hedman, but he's not bad. You know, it's like, it's this weird situation where it's like, I didn't see it. And I know, like, everybody says, oh, 2021 was a weird year to draft and a weird year to scout and blah, 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 which to me, I just go, okay, you know, that's an easy way to dismiss things that you make mistakes on. But with Power, it's just, and this happens so much more often than not, where I watch guys in the NHL and I go, I remember you when you were a junior and you played a lot like this. You know, it was very similar, right? So my whole strategy always comes down to who plays that NHL style of game at the highest possible level right now.
Yep.
And let's start from there, move on into the sunset and work on them and keep tweaking things and moving in the right direction. Anyway,
so why don't we fast forward to draft rankings of today?
Yeah. So the draft rankings of
So
today.
who are you going to
So
be screaming about
exactly
in
in
3
5 years.
years or 4 years? Yeah.
I don't know. I
Is his
mean,
name Roger McQueen?
I don't know. He's injured and like I don't want to take. I don't know. I don't know.
Fair
Um,
enough. We won't go there.
but yeah, we won't go there. But if you're unaware, Elite Prospects, some of the best in the biz, put their list out for December yesterday. It's paywalled, so I can't just share the whole thing, but we'll walk through some of the stuff I found interesting in there. Sam Cosentino also posted another list for this month. I have mine coming out on Monday with Tony, so we're going to reveal ours one at a time, and you'll be able to read it. If you want to get early access, you can pop in tomorrow as a subscriber at either tier, and you will have access to a version of my rankings, the final version, before everyone else does. So you can get the early inside scoop if you like.
And
but
just
yeah,
to be clear, Tony will be releasing his on the Hockey News' website.
Yes, earlier in the day.
Yes, at about noon. But Will is going to avoid spoilers, and he will find out on the show.
I will. And and it'll be like what Sam did, but organized, planned in advance.
Yeah.
The other person puts theirs out early and I see it later,
Not just,
not just, oh shoot, I forgot.
I was gonna curse because
yeah.
I was gonna go, F it. And then that's probably what happened with Sam. F it. And then he just hit send.
Yep.
Tweet.
We love to poke at Sam when he's not even here.
He's the best. That's why we make fun of him.
He's so handsome.
I couldn't believe that comment.
That was so good.
Now
There was a lot of Sam glazing. I was about to say ham glazing.
Ham glazing. Oh.
There's a lot of Sam glazing going on in the chat.
Maybe I need to get on camera. So
maybe. Yeah.
So
well, we got to get you a ring
Uber.
light or something.
Yes.
It looks like you when you go on camera. Sometimes it looks like you haven't slept in 6 days, which may be true for all I know.
No.
Yeah. No. Anyway, getting back to the work and the task at hand, I will also mention it is very worthwhile to go to Elite Prospects YouTube channel and watch their after this, of course, watch their hour and a half long breakdown of their top, I think 32. I think I didn't watch the whole thing yesterday. I watched until I kind of got tired of listening to people talk about hockey all day, which happens, believe it or not, with me. But I'll finish it at some point. But in general, I mean, I think largely I very much agree with the general viewpoints that they've got going on there. Like they mentioned, I think that I'm not sure if what they made public about their ranking, but like their top 4 group is the same as mine. I just have one name shifted around. I can't wait to put this out on Monday. It's kind of hard to talk about when I haven't put anything out, but it's very similar in the way they talk about those guys in the video. Like I agree in terms of them being kind of a step up, and it's kind of like a choose your flavor of ice cream kind of thing. What you're looking for in a player at that level. I still don't. I mean, Roger McQueen at 5, we can kind of get through it, but like I don't see that in him. I think that that's again like a bet on upside, and I don't think that that's going to happen in the way that like everyone else is going to develop too. And I feel like McQueen has quite a ways to go. And if he was he was almost draft eligible for that last year by about 2 weeks. So that's something to keep in mind. But I mean, I see why he's valued. Like I don't have him at like 46, right? Like I think on my list he's like somewhere in the teens or something. Like he's a fine player, but I don't know. I don't remember off the top of my head, but somewhere in there. But then like the next group of guys, right? Like I largely agree with a lot of it. It's a mixture of guys like Eklund and Schmidt and Lakovic and who else is in here. Like their top 10, I think there's only one name in their top 10 that I don't have in my top 10. And the one name I have instead in the top 10, you're gonna laugh. Outside of the top 10 though, I think a lot of it.
Who is it, Will? Come on, you can't.
Well, I'm not gonna tell you. I'm teasing it. You can't. I'm not. It's a surprise. It's a.
But I'm impatient and ADHD, and even though I have access to this, I'm impatient.
Everyone is gonna go. this guy is a moron. That's what's going to happen. People are going to see it and they're go, you are a stupid person. That's what's going to happen. And I can't wait. I'm so excited.
So it's Tobias Heinonen.
Yeah, exactly. It's a re-entry winger from Finland. Yeah, that's it.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Tell us we hate Finland. Come on.
Yeah. Come at us now. Yeah, but like they have some guys like Cameron Reed really high that I have him in the first round, but I don't see quite that what they see out of him. They love Braden Coots, another guy who I really like. They like him a little more than I do, and I totally, again, if you go watch their video, I agree fully with a lot of the things that they're saying. I think it's a little bit hyperbolic, but that's kind of the name of the game sometimes. But Coots is a guy where I agreed a lot with what they were saying. I feel a little bit more hesitant about the projection on him, but I love watching him play. He's a really fun player. The Q guys I'm lower on for the most part that they have. I mean, you can probably insinuate who those guys are in the first round. You know, a lot of people are talking about where they have Anton Frondell again, where they've always had him sort of in the middle of the first round. That's around where he is for me as well. So in that sense, again, like the things they're talking about with him, I think it's that there's just a lot of players who have showed really well this season, and for better or worse, like Frondell has been injured a lot, and so you have to give him a bit of leeway there. Like the back half of the season is going to be super, super important for Frondell from here on out. I mean, Kashan Aitchison is still pretty high on their list. I've seen him a lot, and I know why he's valued. It's just not my style of hockey. I feel like there's just a lot of holes in his game that I think can be exploited. And yeah, he's going to probably play NHL games, but you know, I feel like there are just better options that you could swing at. I will say I love Shane Van Sage. I think he's been really good this season. Like he's gotten way better over the course of the year. I'm really excited to see Van Sage continue this season. I think he's a guy who I think people will be surprised how high I have him, but I think he deserves to be a first round pick. I think he's, you know, he's such a great prototypical NHL guy that I would love to have on my team. You know, if I've got Oliver Moore running around out there with, you know, Brad Lambert or whatever, and I have Shane Van Sage also on the ice, and he's just crashing and banging and smashing everybody to bits and pulling pucks around guys and trying to get into scoring areas and stuff like he's been able to do recently, I'm happy with that. You know, I'm cool with that kind of a combination. What else is going on here? Ivan Ryabkin at 32. I mean, friend of the show, Dylan Griffin. I feel like, and I don't want to speak for Dylan, so Dylan, if you're watching or listening or whatever, he's probably not because he's too cool. But
yes,
if you are, I get the feeling that he wants Ryabkin lower than this. I feel like he probably wants to take Ryabkin off the list entirely. Literally the only real thing that I have in my mind with Ryabkin that keeps him ranked is like, well, what if he's just like having a terrible time this year, right? Like, what if there's something going on in his life or whatever that's just totally cratered and lost this season, you know, and next season he rebounds and boom, he's off to the races, right? Like, would I use a first round pick on that kind of risk? Probably not. You know, like, look at Toronto with Matthew Nyes, right? They drafted a guy who a lot of people thought might be a first round pick going into the draft year. He got mono, he got injured. It just was not a very good year from him when he did play. He was kind of not there as much as he was almost immediately after he got drafted, slipped in the draft, late second round pick. Toronto kind of just goes, well, around now, if he's as good as he was 2 years ago, in 3 years, we're going to have a great pick. And he has been better than I ever thought he could be with Toronto, in my opinion. Trying to set aside the fact that I run a show with a Toronto Maple Leafs fan and I live in the Toronto area, and I have Toronto Maple Leafs guys all in the background. I do think he's outperformed what I expected of him for sure.
I'm happy I was wrong, is all I will say.
Sure,
I'm
you know, and I was too,
very
and that's a
wrong.
great pull from Toronto. But Ryabkin, you know, if he's the next one of those, okay. But I have not seen it with him this year, and other guys, I'm sorry, it just, they bring more. So a first round pick for me with Ryabkin, I think, is a really risky call. but such is life.
If I may add, because I remember in 2023, Michkov was not very good at the beginning of the year.
No, he was not.
He was very bad.
He was very bad. Yeah,
and
he was very bad.
Where were we flirting with having him? Because it wasn't. It was. I think it was mid first round.
Yeah, it was like mid first. Yeah, for me.
At
the time, I still stand by that. Right, like at the time, I know what I was seeing. I still stand by it. But then his universe flipped around, and it was like, oh, like he just became a team player like overnight.
Yep.
When he left St. Petersburg, he's like I'm not wholly unconvinced, and I'd be very curious if I could ask him personally, be like, what changed there? Like, because I think from my perspective, like what changed is a coach sat him down and was like, we're throwing you to the wolves here. Like, you've got talent, but this is where you need to show up, right? Like you aren't the only guy on the ice, and you have the talent to be anything you want, but playing the way you play with St. Petersburg isn't going to cut it, right? Like but you're going to get reps here. We're going to see how it goes, and we're going to work with you because we think you're going to be quite the hockey player. And I feel like it just like a light bulb went off, and he basically transformed into what people thought he could be the whole time. But like, actually, just as a side note, does he have more goals than assists still in the NHL, or is that something that's kind of gone away?
Let's find out.
He's got 11 goals and 16 assists this year.
Well, there you go.
And he's riding, oh my God, and he's riding a 5-game point streak with 10 points.
Feel dumb now for not having him first.
Yeah.
And not having him on your list the first
I definitely feel dumb. I definitely feel dumb for not being able to predict the future. I definitely feel dumb about that. And all the people who claimed they could turning out to be right about predicting the future. But no, I mean, yeah. So with him though, it was a very interesting difference. And and the thing that I would really note is that his trend before going to Sochi was goals. Everywhere he went, goals, right? In 2021, 35 goals, 17 assists. 21-22, 22 goals, 16 assists. 8 goals and 5 assists with the smaller second level junior team for St. Petersburg in Russia. Then he 22-23, 10 goals and 4 assists. Then he goes to Sochi, 9-11. I shouldn't have said just 9-11 on its own. We're going to get demonetized now, but
no,
whatever.
It was 9 and 11. That's what I heard.
9 and 11. And this year, or last year with Sochi, 19 and 22, and this year 11 and 16. So to me, it's like, and that's the part about Michkov that blew me away with his growth in his game. It's like he became a significantly better puck distributor and just a selfless playmaker, and just chipped in way more as a unit player than I'm going to shoot the puck. I'm going to do everything myself.
The one thing that I was trying to bring up, though, in all of this is with Ryabkin, there's a lot of reports that he wants out, right? Like, that's kind of what is out there on the internet, that he's, like, potentially going to what? The Lumberjacks in the USHL? Muskegon?
Yep.
So he's probably checked out. That's
also probably
doesn't want to
true.
be there. And when you don't want to be somewhere, you don't put in effort.
Yeah. I mean, your coach called you out for being out of shape, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty rough.
So,
that's pretty crappy.
And going off of what you saw last year, because I didn't see anything, like, what did you think of him?
Really, really friggin' good. Like, if he played the way that he played last year, and like was the creative, skilled, powerful guy he was last year, like, he'd probably be in my top 10.
Right.
Maybe top 15, like teens somewhere, because a lot of these Canadian guys have shown extremely well, but hard to say.
So
but
there's mobility in terms of he could move up. But
I've got all the time in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised if he got out of his current situation, went somewhere else, and was able to just play his game and actually want to play.
Yeah,
it'd be better, right? Like,
yeah, 100%.
Because I feel like with Michkov, he left St. Petersburg, got loaned out to Sochi, and he was awesome. He was so good. I'm like, oh, this guy's sick. This guy's really sick. I love him. And before that, I'm like, do I like William Whitelaw more? that was the debate with me.
Yeah.
And Will, I'm like, no, I think I like Whitelaw more, because he wasn't playing all that good. But moved on to Sochi, was fantastic. So I'm really hoping that Ryabkin gets out of his current situation and gets to play somewhere else.
Yeah.
And we get to see what he looks like there, because I feel like that's going to be a better indicator of who he is on the ice, because this situation just seems pretty untenable.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to close this section out, I am glad they ranked a guy like William Bell. I think he's right up the alley of a lot of NHL teams. He's on this list somewhere. Jordan Gavin is in here, which is kind of interesting because I want to love Jordan Gavin whenever I watch him play. I see something there. But I've always wondered that he's just not physically going to develop enough to really be what he is now, but in the NHL. And he's had a pretty tough up and down season this year. I'm way higher on Colin Potter than they are. I'll say that too. I love Colin Potter to death. I think he's just gotten better and better and better every game that I've seen him this year.
Wizard?
It should be. But, I don't know. Unfortunately not. I also did manage to see Simon Wong in the game he played against Oshawa, and I thought he was decent in that game, which was kind of fun. But he really can skate, boy. Jumanji, he can really go. He just goes, and it's a lot of fun to watch. But they have him pretty high as well. Ben Kindle's another guy on their list that I have a lot higher. I love Ben Kindle, and I actually spoke before I started putting together my rankings. I spoke to a couple of NHL people, and I was like, I love this guy. Am I crazy? Like, this guy rules. And and they're like, yeah, no, there are some NHL teams out there that have him. Like, he could be one of those guys. If he stays where people have him now for the rest of the year, there could be people who watch the draft and he goes somewhere and they go, who the hell is this guy? Like, it's that I think he's that good. Like, I think he's insanely good, and got tons of potential, especially with how much his game has grown since last year. But anyway, in general, though, like, largely I see where they're coming from on a lot of this. I obviously see things differently in a lot of places, but I think the biggest test for me is always like, can I at least read what they're putting out there or listen to what they talk about and understand what they're getting at, like understand where they're coming from, why they think a certain way, why, if I disagree, why, and how do I come down on it? And at the end of the day, still have it be just like my opinion, right? Like, here's where I come down. And mine will be very different to this, honestly, if I'm being perfectly honest. So I'm excited to see how it turns out on Monday. I can't wait to make Tony cry. It's going to be a good time.
How are you going to make Tony cry? I don't know.
I don't know. That's true. He has no feelings.
I feel like if
he
Tony
has no feelings,
cut onions,
like
he just wouldn't cry.
Yeah, that's true.
He can
Maybe we'll ask him.
He can eat a hot dog with peanut butter on it and think it's good. So, like,
I got to go to Costco later. Maybe I'll get a glizzy. Maybe I'll glizzy myself up on my way home.
Just hope that Rand's not working the Costco hot dog.
Well, he's the one who messes with the pizzas. He messes with the pizzas, right? Not the hot dogs.
I bet you he messes with everything.
Yeah, he probably messes with everything. But luckily, he's a few provinces away. So
yes, that is true.
Yeah, so I think we're good. I just live next to the worst Costco in Ontario. Anyway, let's move on. But overall, yeah, like I get where they're coming from a lot. And then there's Sam Cosentino, where my favorite thing about Sam Cosentino is the little blurbs he writes. I mean, we were talking about it before, and you're like, I like that they're short and whatever to the point. I just think they're hilarious, right? Like, who am I talking?
Hold on. Don't put that out there, okay? I didn't say I liked what he writes. I said I liked the length.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's right in this, almost in the sweet spot of how much should be written, because I have ADHD. I still think there should be about 4 sentences at least on a player, 4 to 5 sentences. But I think he's closer to it than a lot of other writing, because my brain can't handle reading for too long, all right? It is a skill issue. It is 100% a skill issue, but I feel like it is trending that way for most people, having more limited attention spans, all right?
Yep.
So I like that it's short, but with him, it's incredibly short, but there's stuff like player positions that are wrong, leagues that are wrong, okay?
Here's a question. Who do you think I'm talking about? Plays a responsible two-way game with a high hockey IQ and top-notch compete level. His details are on point, and his offensive game is high-end. That is the entire thing.
Maybe like a Michael Misa or a Porter Martone.
Nope. Like it could be anybody, right? Like you could.
It could be anybody.
I mean, maybe not anybody, right? It can't be like Cameron Schmidt or something because he's not the most responsible two-way guy.
And he's got elite in his blurb, even though he's at 26.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he put elite in his blurb for a guy ranked 26th. I mean, I don't know. You kind of have to expect that with guys like Cameron Schmidt because they just look at the height and they go, yeah, but what if it doesn't work out? And then you look stupid drafting him 10th, right? But I'm not betting against Cameron Schmidt at this point. Mamacita.
He's a lot of fun.
He's a lot of fun.
He's probably going to end up on my team.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of guy that will fall far enough where I can grab him. But it'll depend on how bad Seattle is.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll depend.
Always hoping that they're bad so I can draft really good players.
Nah, you'll probably get a chance at a good player. I mean, dude, like there's a chance Cameron Schmidt's not even a first-round pick. So
I know. Trust me, I know. And that's
you'll get your look.
No, I'm hoping that they're bad enough that they're early in the second round so I can grab them there. Right. That's more what I'm saying.
Exactly. Wait, do they not have a first-round pick?
No. I want 2 picks. I want somebody else and Cam
you want
Schmidt.
Someone else as well.
Yes, because I'm greedy. Okay.
Yeah.
Just like in chess, when people offer me a free pawn, a lot of the times I'm like, can I get away with this? Can I get away with this? And
is this a trap?
I try to take it most of the time.
Right. But yeah, I mean, like, I see things very differently from Sam. That's for sure. Cosentino, that is. McGilligan, he's just stealing my work anyway, so who cares?
Well, everybody who comes on the show steals your work, other than like Scott Wheeler and Stephen Ellis, but everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. Even especially that Tony guy, for sure.
Yeah, especially that Tony guy.
Real bastard. Anyway, but yeah, like having Frondell in your top 5 still, I think is extremely optimistic. Like Desnoyers at 6. By the way, that blurb was about Desnoyers. Like, does that sound like a top 6 player? Plays a responsible two-way game with high hockey IQ and top-notch compete level. The details are on point, and his offensive game is high end.
I mean,
like,
it could.
Is that exciting you? Like, about like if your team drafts 6th overall and you get that, that doesn't really pass my smell test. But
well, I also feel like, and I think we touched on it a bit, but like it's never specific, right? I want meat. All right.
Yeah.
I want to know what it is that separates this person. Like, what do they do good?
Like the one about Malcolm Spence is funny to me. Even if you don't project top 6 NHL production, Spence's B game will allow him to fit comfortably in a third line role. Why? What is his B game?
Yeah.
Like, why are you expecting the audience to know what you're talking about? Like,
I know better than themselves.
I know better than anybody that nobody cares about this stuff like I do. So if I see something and you're interested and you're watching, which thank you very much, I'll help inform you about it. Right? Like, I don't know.
But nobody wants to think for themselves. Okay, they just want to be told things. All right, and then the people who don't are crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
They're the weird homeless people yelling at you. All right? That's who they are.
Yeah.
Don't think for yourself, kids. Listen to every word of advice people tell you. Even if it's conflicting and they're going against what they're saying.
Pick one TikTok creator and everything they say is true. That's your life now. That's how it works. Don't even read a newspaper. Don't even read a website. One TikTok creator.
This is how I became the person I am. I just listened to Will, okay? So I'm brainwashed.
Oh shit! Yeah, you're screwed now, son.
Yeah, I am screwed now.
You're in too deep. Oh,
absolutely.
Boy. But yeah, I mean, like just flipping through this, I mean, like he's got Carter Bear and Lyndon Lakovic and Cameron Schmidt in the back 10 of the top 32, and I just think all those guys have been outstanding this season. I've said my piece about Brady Martin about 68,000 times at this point in the year. I'm just not as big of a fan of his. I think he should be a decent NHL player at some point, but I don't like, and he has like Jacobi's Wozniak at 17. Like, plays a very pro style game without a lot of flash and dash. He's big and strong, and most nights uses his size effectively. What does that mean? Like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, how? What is a pro style game, right? Like, why? Because when I watch Ease Wozniak, the lack of flash and dash is the problem. Like, he's big in a junior league and doesn't really move that well. I don't even think he like shoots that well for a guy who scored so much last year. Like, he's got a decent sense of puck touch and hockey sense in the offensive zone. He can move the puck around okay, but whenever I've seen him going back to last year, I just kind of am going, well, I don't like everyone. I feel like if you have him in your top 10, it's like you're looking at the points and saying he must be good because he's big too. And he's taken a step back this year point wise. Big points. And I just kind of look at it and I go, I don't know. Especially because it's like, again, it's like, what are you getting in a player, right? Right after him is Braden Coots. Braden Coots is a more aggressive, more intense forechecker. I think he back checks way better. He's got a higher skill level. He's got better puck control. He's got a better ability to quarterback a line and distribute the puck really, really well. And I know who I would go for 1,000 days out of 1,000, right? Over Ease Wozniak. Is like you have a guy who, on one hand, you mentioned he has without a lot of flash and dash, and on most nights uses his size effectively. And then the next guy on the list is relentless compete and fearlessness. He works hard to keep pucks alive in the offensive zone and works harder to get pucks back. It's like, I'm way more excited in that guy, right? That guy. Way more excited. Like, you just said it.
I saw a bit of Coots at the CHL USA game, like just in flashes. I'm like, oh, I like this guy.
Yeah, you would like him.
I like this guy.
He's your guy.
He is. I could tell. Yep. There are certain players that you just know immediately. Oh, that's an AJ guy. Oh, that's an AJ guy. Oh.
Yep.
Right. So.
Totally.
Coots is right up my alley. I can tell.
I know you well.
Yes, Will actually just sends me guys. He's like, AJ, look at this guy, and I'll go like, yeah. This is my kind of vibe.
Generally, yeah. If they go, then he's in.
That's all I care about. And here's the reason. I watched the Colorado Avalanche play in like the early 2020s. And en route to their Stanley Cup.
I hate that you just said that. The early 2020s.
Yeah, well, but it's true.
I know.
It's true, man.
I don't like the idea of time anymore.
Hey, man, sometimes I think about the year 2150. I'm like, I'm going to be dead by then. That's crazy, right? Like that, it blows my mind. But anyways, so time is progressing, all right? That's what happens. But I was watching the Colorado Avalanche. Fine, I'll say in the late 2010s and early 2020s, all right?
Sure.
Just to make you feel like
the turn of the decade.
Yes, the turn of the decade.
The pandemic era Colorado Avalanche.
Yes, and you know what they did? They were just faster than everybody else. They were so good. They were so good. So good. I felt like every year, other than in 2019, they were the best team in the NHL up until maybe last year, where it was very clearly the Florida Panthers, and then they won, right? So I really think that style of game, playing super fast, intense hockey, is huge. Like, that's the kind of stuff you got to do. Like, Nathan McKinnon, oh my goodness, that guy just moves. And yes, I'm talking about a top-level player, like a top 5 player in the NHL, but still, like, that's the style of play I want. I want guys to just go. I don't want... I want players to be like on the other team to be embarrassed when if my team plays against them. I want them to like not touch the puck, and when they do, they're just hounded quick and they can't get it back. I want them to be deflated, and I feel like playing with a lot of speed and tenacity really, really hammers that home. It's like, we're gonna beat you into a pulp, even if we're not the most physical team. We're gonna break you mentally, and I feel like when you have that type of speed, you can do that more effectively. So that's why I'm wired the way I am about having super fast guys. And it's why I love Fabian Lysell so much, because he is such a POS, all right? He is. He's an absolute rat, and he plays like that.
Yeah.
And I I just want more players who can play like that. Like my team is filled with guys like that. But anyways, we'll move on and continue with this and why guys like who was it that was head of Coots?
East Wozniak.
Yeah. Why? Just
Yeah.
why?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to me. Like, it's just like you're writing this, and anyway, it's neither here nor there. But I guess at this point we can move on to the questions for the show. So again, if you have any questions, please leave them in the chat. Again, there is quite a lot of you here, so welcome if you're new.
Yeah,
if you're unaware of how this works, you just ask your questions away about whatever the heck it is you want to talk about. The only thing I think that is off limits right now is the Survivor episode from last night, because there's a person in here who has not seen it. So spoilers are not allowed. But don't worry, Lewis, if you're there, it's really good. So strap in.
Enjoy it.
Anyway, okay.
Whoa. Clearly you don't know how it works either, because you need to do the ad read.
Maybe that's what I was clearing my voice to do, you jerk.
I don't believe you.
You're right.
I didn't believe you and I was right.
Yeah, you didn't believe me and you were right. You know me like I know you,
Yes, because we're supposed to do it at the beginning of the show. I was supposed to yell at you to do it. I let it slide sometimes.
I mean, I got excited off the beginning of the show,
I understand. You were talking about Owen Powers, right? Like, you have to be
Owen
excited.
Powers.
Yeah, Owen Powers.
Owen Austin Powers.
Yes.
Middle name. Did you know that it's his middle name? Austin Powers.
I would hope it's true.
His full name is Owen Austin Powers Power.
Oh, okay.
That's his full name. Yeah, just so you know.
So you're full of donkey shite. Then is what you're basically saying.
Yes, I have donkey brains. That's what I'm saying. I've got donkey brains today.
All right, ad read, please.
Anyway, well, I'm sure our supporters and advertisers love that I just called myself donkey brained. But we're brought to you by Fanatics. You can use our affiliate link below or scan the QR code in the video window, and we'll get a small kickback on anything you buy in the store. We're also brought to you by Puck Preps Hockey, where you get all your NCAA and CHL prospect needs. We're going to be covering the World Junior A Championship over there, which is ongoing. Canada is getting spanked by Sweden and the US, but you can check out our coverage over there, which is oncoming. We're also brought to you by Factal Hockey Consulting, which is my business for targeted player analysis and recruitment packages for college hockey, Europe, and beyond. So you can check that out at fractalhockey.com. And of course, scouching.ca, where you can get access to our Discord server, tons of cool exclusive prospect data for the NHL draft, as well as drafted prospects, subscriber-only written content, including my rankings, which will come to subscribers tomorrow afternoon, and plenty of other cool perks you can check out at scouching.ca, where you can subscribe over there and get some of those perks. We also have a merch shop at scouchwear.com, and we also have a Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. So if you want to buy us 1 billion coffees, Elon Musk, if you're listening, we just saw you cross $400 billion of net worth. If you want to feel like signing over 0.25% of that, that's absurd. Then I'd be more than happy to take that off your hands.
I need money, please.
Imagine 0.25% of your net worth was $1 billion. Like that.
I'm just
no.
That would be awesome.
That's wrong. That's just wrong. It wouldn't be awesome. Ugh.
Why?
Like, what do you even do? Ugh.
Get to actually give back to people and not feel like I have to hoard all the money like a goblin.
There's a news story out that his foundation apparently under-donated about $500 million. So I wonder why he wants to get involved in regulating how the government collects revenue and monitors people's spending. I wonder if he's got, I've got a charitable. I mean, look at the guy who's running the show. His charity is notorious for being really well run and definitely not a giant scam. Anyway, let's move on. Adam Fantilli question. I've always had concerns about Fantilli in regards to his hockey sense and ability to problem solve with less time and space. He's struggled via the eye test and analytics, especially this season. Did you see any of those red flags in 2023? And how do you view him in hindsight against guys like Michkov and Carlson? So, first off, to answer the second part. Well, first, I'll answer the second part. Okay. I did see that the only issue for me with Fantilli when he was in college was the points were there, but it was all very sort of individually driven, right? Give me the puck. I'll do the job. I can score. I've got finish. I can do everything, which is true. But the give and goes weren't really that great with him, and spotting line mates for passes, his pass volumes were relatively low. Like, he was a very, 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 very talented player, but I felt like he would take time to settle into an NHL role, right? Like, he's still extraordinarily young. He's 20 or yeah, he's 20, I think. So, let's be easy here. But I think that he, like, in terms of relative to Michkov and Carlson, I still felt like as a center, like him and Carlson, I had on the same tier. And I figure that both of those guys would kind of fill a similar role in the NHL at the end of the day. Michkov being a winger, I always felt like he was just going to be a really dynamic and aggressive offensive scoring winger, which cool, but in the real world, like, centers are more valuable and they do take longer to really settle into that role and do well in that role. And we went and watched Fantilli actually before the show. So
Yes.
AJ, I'll let you take it away on this, and I'll follow up when you're done.
God, he's one of my favorite players ever. I love him. I don't care. Like, I have not fully discarded analytics, but I'm getting close. Okay, because, like, this guy is awesome. I know there's some trouble, like there's some problems with him, but you just see what he's able to do. Like, Will, there was a moment where we were watching him and he just carved through everybody. He carved through everybody on Vancouver and almost scored, and it was nasty. It was disgusting. Will had to go back. He doubled back on this particular play, and Will went, "Oh, whoa!" All right, that's
I did.
That's the actual noise Will made. He's like, "That's so gross. That's so gross."
It was gross.
Yes, he needs to use his line mates better, but he's
Yes,
a supportive
100%.
player. He at least is really good at being there for them to give him the puck. It's now about giving the puck to other people as well a bit. And
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the other thing too is, like, off the puck defensively, he's a step behind a lot. He doesn't really have that jump and that motor, I think, to, like, really dangerously stick check a player. Like, I think that still needs to come a little bit of a ways. He kind of sits back and lets them kind of go by. I don't know if that's tactical or not, but that's never really been his brand anyway.
He does have,
and, like, the shot selection,
there,
he does. Yeah, I mean, when you see him on the rush, he's a zippy boy. He goes. But for me, like, a lot of it too is, like, the shot selection is a little weird. Like, he just tries to put stuff on net where you're like, that's not gonna work for you.
Yeah.
You gotta think a little bit more advanced than this. You gotta get deeper into the offensive zone. You gotta, use your playmaking to get the puck out in front a little bit more. But I mean, watching that game, I wasn't concerned, especially because he is playing center on a team that is not doing amazing. And
they're doing better this year, I think.
Yeah, they are better, yeah. But he's playing a lot, he's a sophomore. Like, lots of players kind of struggle in their second seasons. It isn't uncommon. But I think in general, he plays a style of play that will require patience to, like, get to where it could be. I think that he needs experience and time and, supportive coaching to, like, get him there, because the talent is still there. The talent is outrageous. And so it's like, let's keep working towards getting somewhere, really, really positive here. I don't think he's as bad as his analytics say he is.
Definitely not.
I don't think that's the case.
He looked great. He honestly looked great in that game. And maybe we're getting sampled, okay? It's a possibility, but I watched him a lot in his draft year. He's like my favorite. I know I talk about Fabian way more, but that's more because I feel like I always have to go to bat for him because I love him. But Adam Fantilli is the AJ boy, AJ boy, and I love that guy. No,
I don't think Columbus drafting Michkov works out very well, right?
No.
Like, I don't like, they needed a Fantilli. Like, I know you don't draft on need, but
centers are more valuable.
Centers are more valuable, and he's a really good one, right? Like, Carlson wasn't even on the board at the time; he was gone, so that doesn't make a difference anyway. You didn't get a chance at him, but, like, Carlson's a different side of a similar coin, right? Like, he is bigger and faster, and, like, I'd say more physical, but I feel like Fantilli and Anaheim, based on how Anaheim looks, would not work out either. So it's a matter of like, I think Fantilli's in the right place, ideally, and he's getting experience, right? He still hasn't played the equivalent of a full NHL season yet, too, right? Like he's at like 70 career games or something like that, 75.
Mm-hmm.
So, like this is, you got to be patient, especially with centers, right?
He also got hurt too, right? Like he was out
he did,
for
yeah. He was
a
out.
significant part of his rookie season. So like,
Yeah.
be a little more patient with him. But if you watch him individually, he's disgusting. Oh my goodness. Just one of my favorite players in the NHL. I just love him. I love him so much.
Fun.
And my first glitter player. And for those who don't know, a player that catches your eye while you're watching somebody else. I was watching Matt Coronado, and all of a sudden I heard Lion King, Adam Fantilli. And I know I've told this story a couple of times, but I just want to reiterate it because I love him so much. And I also found him being called Lion King really fantastic and funny.
Really fantastic.
Yes,
Fantilli.
really fantastic.
Fantilli-tastic.
God, he's so gross. He's so gross. Why does he have to be a Bruins fan? You grew up...
Tons of potential. I wish the best for him.
You grew up in Nobleton, man. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. I had a little debate with my buddy about drafting small players, and his concern was how they'd be more injury prone. Is this why teams shy away from these players? I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the list of players who are on the injury list in the NHL, right? Like Ryan Lomberg is not, I mean, he's pretty small, but like Hampus Lindholm is injured. Rasmus Dahlin's not small. Anthony Mantha is injured.
I really think it comes down to like not being able to be physically involved. Like, even though there are guys who we've talked about, like Owen Power, who just doesn't involve himself all that much physically. If he's 6'6", who cares? He should be. It's just the assumption that because you are big, you can get to a spot where you're physical. Not all guys are.
Let me use my university degree here a little bit, right? Like,
okay, Mr. Smarty Pants.
If you think about it biomechanically, right? So much about, like, you have to think about why injuries happen, right? It's not always like brute force, right? It's not like I have weak bones, therefore you broke my arm by skating into my arm after I shot the puck, right? Like, that's not necessarily how those things happen. A lot of injuries, especially in hockey, are like ligament injuries or muscle injuries or something like that. And an example that I kind of want to bring up is Victor Wembanyama. And if you ever look at Victor Wembanyama's body, he is like the space alien in the picture from Men in Black that Tommy Lee Jones shows Will Smith. Like, these were the first aliens. He's like 8 feet tall and has arms that are like the guy at the end of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that kind of thing. But the concern when he was young was he's injured. He could be injured, right? He's lanky and he looks like he's got no muscle on his bones whatsoever. What if he blows out his knee being that tall? And there is a legitimate concern when the longer your bones are and the longer your body parts are, the longer your like bones are, the more that force applied to, say, the middle of that bone is going to apply and potentially split it or break it or fracture it, right? And the more force that can be applied on where those bones go, right? The anchor points for muscles around your knee, for example, right? So what I'm getting at is, like, I think it's more about conditioning in terms of avoiding injury, right? So Victor Wembanyama, for example, he's gigantic, and there was a lot of concern about his injuries because of how lanky he was and how thin he was. But there's a lot of work out there people have done, and I think he's talked about it himself. And Sam was telling me about this last year, where he's like got dedicated trainers who are basically doing like a lot of body weight exercises, a lot of yoga, a lot of mobility things with him to really strengthen those anchor points, right? Like, if you want to avoid knee injuries, you don't, like, being 6'6", like, it's almost easier to get a knee injury because there's more weight and force applied on those ligaments, right? But it's about the strength of the muscles around that capsule in your knee or your elbow or, whatever, to resist that blunt force, right? It's about, the one area I think you can maybe argue this doesn't matter is the head. But the head, it doesn't matter how big you are. You're always susceptible to head injuries because the neck is the most vulnerable joint in the whole body, right? There's an inverse correlation between flexibility of a joint and stability, right? That's why people's shoulders pop out all the time. That's why your neck is so vulnerable so much. And so anyway, to make a long story short, I think that there's an argument to be had that it's more about the individual, right? Certain individuals might be more injury prone because either there's some sort of genetic issue, like my brother-in-law basically has a genetic thing where his ACLs are thinner than they should be, and he had to have his ACL replaced not too long ago, and I believe his dad did too a long time ago. And so it's like that might be a factor, right? Whether or not you're 6'6" or 5'6", it doesn't make a difference. So
whoa.
What?
Your brother-in-law?
Well, like technically,
Yeah, I was about to say, when do you get
boys.
married?
We're boys, it's whatever. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I'm just being an ass.
But you get my point, right? Like, I think it's more about the individual, and it's more about the things you can do to be preventative about injuries in the first place. Which, I mean, with anything in life, it's more about that rather than the end, looking at the end results and going, how can we make the end result? Like, what are the trends in the end results? It's like, no, like, what is causing the root problem, right? Like, let's deal with the original stuff, which is why so many teams have focused so much on physical training, but more so about conditioning and flexibility. Like, flexibility in hockey is a huge thing, like, hockey players are kind of like every sport kind of trains their athletes subtly differently. But yeah, like, I mean, in hockey, I think a lot of that comes down to that. There are certain player types that I think are more reckless and put themselves at more risk of injury. But I think that you could easily say like a Nick Robertson does that.
Yes.
But so does a Matthew Rempe, right? Like,
oh, absolutely.
Right. So it's like it's a lot of these guys on, like, Josh Manson is on injured reserve for an upper body injury.
Yeah. I
whatever.
I think really the reason they don't draft small guys is because they think these guys are like, a lot of the time I feel like a lot of it is they have to play in the top 6 or they're not going to work. And when it comes to making a pick, people's jobs are on the line. So they need to go the safe route and be like, nope, I got you that guy, and he's playing.
Yeah.
So you can't fire me. I think that's really where it stems from.
Someone also mentions Phil Kessel as a guy who never got hurt, but he also never threw a hit, like, ever in his life. Like, he never put himself in a position to get hurt.
I know.
But like, he lived off of hot dogs apparently, and he was fine. I don't think he took conditioning. I don't think he took conditioning very seriously in the NHL, but God bless that man. He is an enigma. That guy is kind of like, who is the other Phil Kessel out there? I don't think there is one.
No, there isn't. He is.
Which I will say, I love Phil Kessel, but it pisses me off because what he could have been, right? Like, if you just, like, there was talk when he was like 15, 16 years old that like it was going to be Sidney Crosby and Phil Kessel for the next 20 years. Like, I remember those days.
It could have been.
Were like, and it could have been. But he's like, I'll score 30 or 40 goals every year, 30 or 40 assists, and just have a good time,
And be on the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, and be on the worst Toronto Maple Leafs teams ever assembled, Anyway.
Hey, they made the playoffs one year, and
we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that.
That's how we broke in the new the TV downstairs. It was bought to watch a Game 7 that I couldn't go to school the next day. I literally could not go to school the next day.
It was devastating.
No, I'm not kidding. I did not go to school the next day.
I was in Maple Leaf Square for that game. That was. I thought there was going to be a riot.
You know what I said at 4-1?
They're going to lose.
No.
That's true. You wouldn't say that.
There's no way Boston's coming back.
There's a lesson.
We're through.
But
I still don't believe in jinxes.
See, my lesson in that regard was when we went to, I went to the World Juniors in Buffalo and I saw the gold medal game against Russia. Canada was up 4-0, I think, in the second period. the fans started doing the "na na na na" chant, and the Russians scored 5 straight goals and won. Oops. Anyway, hockey. That's hockey, baby. Any thoughts on Philip Ekberg? I have seen him a few times. I was disappointed the first time, but the second time he was better. I'm cautiously optimistic. I have him relatively high on my list because I think that the flashes of what I've seen are very good, but I'm not like over the moon about his play so far this year. But I think as like a distributor and a puck mover, he's pretty good. But I'm not. Yeah, I've been kind of underwhelmed by him, but I always have been kind of underwhelmed by him. Again, it's like people set the bar so high because he had that one hat trick in the first Hockey Allsvenskan game he played at 16 years old, you know. But he's good. He's a good player, skilled, creative, competes. I don't know what he's going to be in the NHL, and that always bumps you down the list. Also, there's a second part of this. Would they just let short prospects grow out their frame and gain strength in like the AHL? I mean, yeah. I mean, I think it's like the debate that you were having with your friend was kind of not debating the right topic, right? Like it's kind of missing the point where everybody should be doing that. The vast majority of players play in the AHL before they go to the NHL because that's what you do. So, I mean, I guess, yes, like but I mean, if anything, the short players are the ones that are going to the AHL way longer than a lot of other players do.
Logan Stankoven, man. He was awesome there, and now he's awesome in the NHL.
Yep. What are your biggest disagreements with EP's what?
That's I was going to say, that's a guy who's more physical than Owen Power. But he is.
Yes, you are correct. Yes. Okay. Biggest disagreements with EP's top 50. I kind of went over that already off the first hour of the show. Sheldon Keefe is the second best coach in his family. His brother has multiple EIHL titles.
We love you,
Sheldon could never. You can't argue with hardware. Sheldon Keefe might have a Calder Cup.
He does. He's won everywhere he's gone except the NHL.
He's won everywhere he's gone except the NHL. But the EIHL, you don't screw with the EIHL. Winning one of those, it's not a joke. Go Sheffield Steelers or whatever. Actually, I think J Milk's a Guildford Flames fan. So go Flames. I don't know.
Who's their rival? I'll support them.
I don't even know where Guildford is. Like if you had a gun to my head and were like, I am going to pull the trigger unless you can point out Guildford on a map.
Might as well pull the trigger.
Yeah, I'd just be like, yeah, that's not where I would have pointed. Nope. Well, it's pretty close to London. Anyway, whatever. How much of a better spot would Buffalo be if they took Matty Beniers instead of Owen Power at number 1? I said that exact same thing to AJ before the show.
Yep.
And that's why that's also why I had Beniers at 1, right? Like I kind of went, Buffalo could use a guy like this. Isn't he from around there?
I think he's from Boston.
He's from Hingham, Massachusetts.
Okay, so it wasn't that far off.
Yeah, it's south of Boston. Closer to Buffalo than Seattle, for sure.
Yeah. Thanks, genius.
Yeah, you're welcome. Imagine how good the Rochester American second line would be if they picked Fabian Lysell.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
They would.
Okay, a lot of talk about Owen Power. Isaac Rosen.
True. I agree with the defensive problems, but seeing the critics slam his offense confused me a bit. Yeah, I mean that's slamming his offense is a little bit too far for me, but yeah, like outside the offensive zone though is where he was really shaky. His usual partners have been lackluster. That's true. Hey, and for a guy who's passing orient, yeah, what?
Mike, just a little bit.
Oh, God damn. Okay, that should be better.
It is. Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna overhaul this whole thing for 2025. I swear to God.
Can somebody get Will a Christmas present? A new microphone, please.
New microphone and a new cable. It's probably the cable.
And me a ring light, and then I'll go on camera, and you'll see my beautiful face.
I do think I'm gonna pick up a Stream Deck at some point, to trigger some stuff because that would be very handy, and even just for productivity reasons. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. His usual partners, yeah, you said this. For a guy being so passing oriented, having his most common option or target being worse really hurts him. I mean, yeah, but he also isn't finding those targets super well,
No, he's
right?
not.
Like he's kind of not executing very well
He's doing
outside
the
the
thing he
offensive zone.
did in the NCAA, which is think, oh shoot,
Yeah,
gotta pass
blast
it.
it. Yeah. I only watched the last 10 minutes of the game last night. Thought he showed some fight after getting his team back within a goal after having one go in off of him. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he has that offensive side of his game. It's there. But again, like I go back to what my viewpoint is of drafting defensemen, especially super high, right? Like unless this player is literally the most dynamic and creative offensive defenseman out there, like a Zane Parekh, you could convince me, yeah, draft him high and lean into the offense and try to just deal with the issues later. All right,
man.
like I can agree.
The Battle of Alberta is going to be so insane with Zane Parekh and Evan Bouchard.
Yeah.
Like, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to see all the crazy things that happen. Those guys are going to do some incredible things offensively and do some incredibly not so good things defensively, and it's going to be a fun time.
Unless the Oilers get frustrated and trade Evan Bouchard,
they're not going to
break Rand's heart and get when Jacob Trouba turns his career around in Anaheim, they're going to trade Evan Bouchard for Jacob Trouba. I'm calling it now.
What did I send you last night?
I don't remember.
You know what it was? It was a screen cap.
Oh, was it the Ottawa Senators pounding the Ducks? Yeah.
And what I put under it?
The Trouba era has begun.
No, the Jacob Trouba effect.
Yeah, the Trouba era is here.
They beat Ottawa the last time they played, too.
Oh, well. Gun to your head. Who do you have? If you have to choose a player to score 20 goals next season to save your life in the NHL, Dalibor Dvorsky or Fabian Lysell?
Fabian, baby.
No, I go Dvorsky because you'll put him on the power play and he can shoot.
I don't want to live if he doesn't.
Lysell doesn't score goals. That's not his thing.
Don't care. I'm backing my boy. If it means my life's ending early, then whatever. I don't want to live in a world where he's not in the NHL. Okay.
I didn't say he's not in the NHL. That's 20 goals. Who's going to score 20 goals next season? Do you think Fabian Lysell is going to score 20 goals on next year's iteration of the Boston Bruins?
If he plays at the beginning of the season, yes.
Ooh, I don't know.
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right.
I
maybe.
Do.
But you put Dalibor Dvorsky on a power play with Jordan Kyrou and Robert Thomas, yeah, he could score 20 goals. Sure.
I just think, like, imagine you play, like, if they just played him with David Pastrnak.
Yeah.
He'd be ridiculous, okay?
But he's not scoring the goals.
Yeah, because he has nobody. He doesn't.
No. But it would be Pastrnak scoring the goals there. I'm answering the question. No, I'm not saying who's better.
But Pasternak's a good playmaker too. He is.
Right, but Lysell still isn't a great like goal scorer. Has he ever really been a good goal scorer?
I think he's been fine.
He had
20 goals
14 last year, 22 the year before. In his draft year, he had 3 goals in the junior league in 11 games.
Yeah, well,
like he's not a goal scorer like that. He had 15 last year.
Well, I'm doing this for the meme. I don't care. I'm picking Fabian, okay?
All right. Fair enough.
I'm picking Fabian because I love him, all right?
Uh-huh.
No bias aside.
Down with the ship.
No bias aside, all right?
Got it. Brian, you're here. And Brian Stewart is here. Welcome. Thoughts on Cameron Reed, Zeb Lindgren, and Kurban Limatov? I really love Cameron Reed. I think he's a really good skatey boy defenseman. He gets around really well, skates in a straight line really well, closes gaps really well. I think he's a bit of a blank slate guy who leads with his skating that you can develop. I don't have him as high as EP, but he is in my first round. Mm-hmm. Zeb Lindgren, I feel like has super elite itis, where you play a men's league game in Sweden or 2 or 3 or 5, and then you go back to junior and like, why am I here? Because I watched him in junior a couple of times this week. I tracked a game in junior and he was terrible. The whole team there, Skellefteå, is terrible. They are slow. They don't move the puck very well. They take low percentage chances. They play like they don't care.
I believe that is called the Mikael Holm effect because he coined it.
Right, it is. Yeah, the Holm effect is an effect there because I've seen him play pro hockey, and I think he's a really solid, mobile, strong defenseman. Patrols the neutral zone and defensive zone really well. Keeps it simple. effective. Not really much I can't be upset about with his game, but then I saw him at the junior level and I went, oh, I don't know. But I mean, he's I think in my first round, if not early second, and I will see where he is. I have lots of flexibility on him going both directions. And Kurban Limatov, yeah, I mean, the last game I did of him was, I mean, every game I've done of him has been better and better. I think he's got a ton of potential, but he's got a long way to go to get there. He is gigantic. He skates really, really well. And I think he has every so often one of those moments where you go, holy effing S word. That was wild. Where he just he just takes the puck and goes, here, little baby, I'm going to do what I want with you. And I'm going to take you to the house and, just, tuck you in. And he does. And it's beautiful. It's really, he's just a tremendous amount of fun. He's a bit unrefined defensively. Like he kind of loses those battles. In a weird way, he's kind of similar to Owen Power, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. He's kind of like a Russian Owen Power, just scaled down a little. But like similar issues, similar strengths, similar fun factor, and whoever drafts him, I hope they lean into that and go, yeah, it would be really nice to have a 200 something plus pound, 6'5" gigantic puck rushing defenseman who can crash the net and do fun stuff.
So you're saying he's going to be Victor Hedman?
No, he's going to be Bobby Orr mixed with Victor Hedman. And if they had a baby, that married Chris Chelios and Scott Stevens' baby, and then they had a baby, then I think we're talking.
And Cale Makar is the godfather.
Maybe Kurban Limatov. And yeah, Cale Makar is the godfather who hangs around the house. He lives in the house in the backyard that's across the yard, kind of like Ray Romano's brother and Everybody Loves Raymond. Like that's the vibe.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, he's. Which team would have a better theoretical defense group? A D-core of all Lane Hudsons or all Owen Powers?
All Lane Hudsons.
Lane Hudson. Yeah, I take the Lane Hudson. Yeah, they're small, but boy, they can zip. Do you think Michkov would have played for the Habs if they drafted him?
Yes.
So I think so, but I mean, I don't know if there was any momentum about him not going to Montreal ever. I don't see why he wouldn't. But it did. What I will say is that behind the scenes video that Montreal put out where they were talking about who to draft with that pick, it really did seem like they were talking about Michkov, but they never said his name, right? Like Jeff Gorton was talking about, well, the other guy is just so skilled and has so much stuff you just don't come across very often. And like, are we going to be kicking ourselves in 5 years for not drafting this type of a player?
Yes.
Blah, 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 blah. To me, that sounded like Michkov. And so I don't think Jeff Gorton would be positing that at the last minute at the draft if their understanding was that Michkov had no interest in playing in Montreal, right? I think they genuinely just went, Reinbacher's more important, so we're going to go with Reinbacher. I don't know, but I don't see why he wouldn't come to Montreal. Like, I know he did want to go to Philadelphia, and I think he was telling teams that he didn't want to go to certain places, but I don't know, maybe Montreal. Like, I don't see why you wouldn't want to go to Montreal if you also want to go to Philadelphia, right? Big market, super passionate fan base. They love these, competitive guys who have this like bit of a swagger streak to them like he does. It's, the Montreal at the Bell Center's might be one of the best arenas to see a game and play in. Like it's a mecca for hockey fans, one of them. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe he didn't, but it seemed like through all the context and reading the tea leaves, he would have. Thoughts on Max Westergaard and Lev Katzen? Westergaard won't be on my list. I think he just benefits from playing with Ivar Stenberg. I think he's too small and slow and not very skilled to make it work. Like the Holenka was kind of eye-opening for me with him. Lev Katzen, on the other hand, is fun as heck. Small, but like rambunctious and speedy. Jordan Millette approves of this guy. Lightning quick wrist shot release. He's been off to a really good start with Guelph, and I've liked what I've seen. I watched one of those games, and I thought he played really well. So, he, I think, is on my list this year, but I'm not sure where. Is Owen Power kind of case study of a guy who's raw, and it matters how good team development staff is in molding the player to their full potential? Partially, yeah, I think so. Yeah, because that was the whole angle that I took, right? I see this certain type of player in him, And it's going to be up to the team to sort of urge that more out of him more often, right? It's going to be up because if you take him and go, oh my God, he's 6'6" and can score points, but like, what if we teach him to be Radko Gudas? Like, oh my God, imagine, right? It's like that, I think, would have been a mistake. But I feel like he's now in this weird middle ground where it's like he's not that puck rushing offensive guy unless the puck is in the offensive zone, but he's also not that super physical, intense defensive player either. So he's kind of like in this weird middle ground where it's like no man's land of what are you? So yeah, and I mean Buffalo's been a chaotic place to play forever. So I don't know. I think there's a bit of truth to that. I watched a game of Johan Neuenschwander. Yeah, that's a fun one in the Swiss U20s. Although most of the game he did look 15 playing against older competition, he showed moments of great skill. The fact that he's 6'3" at 15 years old and 180 pounds, being fast as a skater. And yeah, I agree. I think he's a very interesting player, Neuenschwander. Someone mentioned him a few weeks ago, so I went and watched his National League tape. You see it. You know, I think that with some good skills training and good reps in games, I think he's going to turn out to be quite a good player in a couple of years. Obviously, the size is good. I think it gives him an advantage in terms of growing into that size and getting used to it and everything, because he does seem a little bit clunky and a little bit, you know, unsure of his skill level and all that stuff. But I think with time, it'll only get better. I mean, ideally, you're 15. That's kind of when
and he's got a great name.
And he does have a great name, Joa Neuenschwander.
Jonah. Yeah, that's the name of my brother.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. It's a good one.
It's a great name.
Yep. It's
not because I'm biased towards my brother.
Yeah. Lebowski has a good answer, good thing here, right? Owen Power has more points this year than Miro Heiskanen. Does that mean he's a better player? No. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. Would you rather have Timothy Liljegren or Owen Power?
Ooh.
Probably Liljegren. Like, I think
well,
you can at least depend on Liljegren to take care of the puck and get it back in the defensive end pretty well.
If we're talking like long term,
long term.
And I'm going to preface this with, if I get to, well, maybe not me necessarily, but it's like, nah, screw it. I'm confident. If I get to develop him, all right? If I get to be part of that process, in the sense that, like, we coach him the way that we want to think, we think the game, right? And try and show him how to improve in the areas that, because people see different things. And I feel like that's why you get some weird teams in the NHL, right? And it's like there's very different philosophies. So if you get to do Owen Power in my brand of hockey, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to take Owen Power and develop them. But like purely as who they are now, I love Timothy Liljegren, and he's fantastic, and that's who I'd go with purely now. But if I get to develop Owen Power into what he could be, I'm taking Owen Power.
Right. I will also say, speaking of Timothy Liljegren, do you know how many points Jake Wallman has this year?
I don't, but okay, can you tell me how many games the San Jose Sharks have played? That way I can make a more educated guess.
They've played 31 games, I believe.
Okay, I'm going to go with 23 points.
20 in 26. He had 21 points last year in 63 games for Detroit. And then they traded him for nothing, and he's their most productive defenseman in San Jose.
Well, he didn't play power play that much last year,
right?
Because
points. But points.
Yes, points. But how much of that's coming on the power play, right? Like, so much of it's tied to deployment, and that's fine. But like, he's a good player, and they gave away stuff to get rid of him. Okay, they attached.
28 years old,
and
from the greatest city in the world. It's crazy.
You better be talking about Toronto. You better.
Yes,
okay,
he's from Toronto. Okay. Yeah, he's a Toronto boy.
Okay.
Don't worry, I wouldn't get too out of control on you.
Yes, you better be very nice about our hometown.
I love Toronto. I love it to pieces. I grew up in the city of Toronto, and I'm so thankful that I did, especially in the time that I did, because Toronto's a very different place now than when I was a kid. But yeah,
I am an Etobicoke boy through and through, baby.
Gentrification, baby. When I moved into my house as a toddler, the neighborhood I was in was an absolute tire fire. I remember it, man. There were places you did not go, places my parents were like, you are not allowed to go past this line. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200 or whatever. Now it's like the ritziest, chicest, hipsterest neighborhood in West Toronto, probably. Like,
should have held on to the home. Should have held on to the home.
Well, they did until I was 28 or whatever.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So we're good, but holy smokes, man. There were like mob hits in my neighborhood when I was a kid, and
there are mob hits in my neighborhood. There's one that happened down. Like,
well, yeah, you're Italian and you live in Etobicoke. Like,
well, there's one that literally happened on the street over from me.
Yeah,
but I live in a nice neighborhood. It's not like I live in a bad neighborhood by any means.
Mobsters have money. They live in nice neighborhoods. You know, you might live next to a mobster. Oh. There might be a mobster 3 doors down from you.
Hold on. We're getting some clarification on the power play points. He's only had 4 power play points this year. The remaining are at 5-on-5. That's actually incredible. Just goes to show Detroit sucks.
The eyes are playing is in full effect. And don't you dare question it.
I think people are questioning it now, Will. I think it's happened.
Maybe that's why they get so mad when I mention that their prospect pipeline is like middle of the pack.
It has to be good. It must be.
No.
Why are we such a mid team?
Yeah.
Maybe. Look at who you bring in.
Well, yeah, if you have a dartboard and you have 100 darts and 50 of them miss the dartboard and someone else has 60 darts and they only missed 20, they did better. Like, you know, you might get a bullseye, but they probably still scored a little better. Anyway, whatever.
This is not fantasy hockey. Volume is not king.
No, it is not. Sam was looking particularly handsome in his V-neck and mood lighting. Yeah, I mean, we'll take it. You know,
if you want
we're all about supporting mental health, and yeah, if you want more of that,
look, like just you can send me a setup, like a nicer setup, and I think I'm a much more handsome person than Sam McGilligan, despite the fact I don't show my face much. It's more because I'm jumping around erratically, and my ADHD brain is just going all over the place. So I'm worried about the reaction, like the facial reaction you're going to see. But maybe it'd be good. Maybe it'd be good. You know what? New Year's Revolution. Let's get
Revolution. You're feeling inspired by Mr. What's his name?
Yes. But I actually do want to get on camera so I can cut myself on some of the shorts, just because that way we can have more talking dynamics. So you know what? I'm going to do it. All right. I'm saying this out here, so I have to do it. And if I don't, everybody who is here that is willing can flame me for not putting my face on camera yet. All right. Shame me until I do it. It works. I know it works because I'm me, and I know it gets me going. All right, moving on.
Yeah, moving on. Is Theo Hallquist a player? I've seen him a few times this year. I haven't been really blown away with him at all, but he's producing decently well outside of he's in the SHL now, which is pretty wild. Well, he's not playing many minutes. You know, he's doing the whole minute and a half, 30 seconds thing. But he seems to be doing well at the Junior A Championship, which, again, not saying much because that tournament is like all the Canadians who are not in the OHL, QMJHL, and whatever, not a great pool to pull from. But Hallquist is a guy who, when I tracked him a couple of times this year, he was not very good. But you see moments of like skill and evasiveness. So he's someone I do need to check back in on. So I appreciate the heads up on that. Is Jamiro Reber going to get drafted? Oh, I don't know, but I hope. Like, he's been really good, and he's playing in the SHL, and he doesn't look out of place there. He's been pretty good.
Does he at least get a camp invite?
Probably. Like, yeah, I would think so. EP had no love for the top Russian goalies on the ranking video. I mean, I like Andrianov, but other than that, I'm not super blown away with any of the Russian goaltenders, but I don't know. I've been wrong on that before. Where do you have Jack Murtagh? I have him in the 3rd round. A lot lower than a lot of people have him. Again, it's not that I don't like him. It's just that I don't believe what everyone's been saying about him. He's a strong kid, resilient, battles through pressure, at least tries to really well.
I just feel like the finesse in his game and the play outside the offensive zone just isn't quite there. You know, he's kind of at his best when guys are draped all over him under pressure in the offensive zone, or if he manages to sneak his way into open space and he becomes a trigger man, which those guys are always a lower priority for me. But I mean, he's a decent player. He's really young, lots of runway. But there's just lots of other players that I've been more intrigued by.
Mm-hmm.
But as a guy who scores, yeah, he's a good one.
Points, baby.
Yeah. Power versus Edvinson versus, I'm assuming Hughes is Hughes, but not spelled right, but that's okay. I mean, I think that would be in reference to Luke.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because Quinn, Luke
2021
Hughes.
class.
Yeah, 2021. Yeah, I mean, I had Hughes higher. I think I had Edvinson higher. Did I?
I don't. I think they were. I think all
I had
these
Edvinson
were
next
back
to him.
Back.
So I had, okay, for the record, my 2021 list was
I think
Beniers, Eklund, Wallstead, Lascelles, Hughes, Johnson, Power, Edvinson. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Hughes as a more projectable, dynamic offensive guy, but still had defensive holes in his game. But I liked his play more than Owen Power. And I think the fact that he was a year younger than Owen Power
that was
also was a big factor where I'm like, yeah, he's got an extra year of runway on him and he hasn't even played college hockey yet. So there's a lot of upside there. So I had Hughes higher. Edvinson, I felt was a more kind of like what I feel like Buffalo wants Power to be, like in a way, where it's like he's more like stable and mobile and safe and efficient and just works off of a guy like Moritz Seider really, really well, just to be a strong pair with some skill and creativity offensively. That's nice. But yeah, I still think that Hughes of those three is the BPA, quote unquote, like best player available.
If there's one thing the Detroit Red Wings do well, is draft Swedish players.
Yes, that's
true.
And
it is just constant that they get the best out of their Swedes. Lucas Raymond, man, he's redonkulous.
Yep. All right, where were we here? Okay.
We're on. Do you ever go wow when you see the differences 1 year makes from U16, U17, and U18?
Yeah, especially U16 to 17. But yeah, I mean, like some of the biggest jumps in quality of play is around that age, right? Like they're developing, they're finished, they're growing into their bodies, they're getting seriously into physical training, probably for the first time or their first couple of years of seriously athletic training and everything. Like you're usually not supposed to like be lifting weights and everything until a little bit later in life, but either way, like there is a big jump in the quality there for players. And yeah, so oftentimes it does surprise me for sure. Thoughts on Mahan Dagani? That's an Iranian player, I believe. Yes, it is. He plays for a team called Icebox in Iran. Mahan Dagani had 22 points at that. This is, I think, the sixth show in a row I've been able to mention the Asia Oceania Cup Under-18 Championship from last year, where Mahan Dagani had 22 points in 5 games. 12 of those points came in a 25-1 win over the United Arab Emirates, and 7 more, a double hat trick, came in a 14-2 win over Muhammad Ali Baba and his men from Iran. So unfortunately, against the only 2 good teams in that tournament, he had no points. They lost 19-0 to Uzbek. That's hilarious. So they lost 19-0 to Uzbekistan.
That's
incredible. And then they lost 23-0 to Thailand. Shout out Thailand. Won their game this morning against Kyrgyzstan in the under 20 championships they're in. They're now 2-0. 23-0 loss to Thailand, and then they beat UAE 25-1. Then Malaysia 11-0 and Iran 14-2.
What?
So they were right in the middle of that tournament.
What?
So I mean, that's how good Thailand and Uzbekistan were relative to the rest of them.
But how bad did Thailand and Uzbekistan perform? It was Thailand and Uzbekistan, correct? Yeah. How well did they perform against these other teams that? Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you. Just wait. So
is there a
Uzbekistan
30-0 game?
So Thailand won the tournament, which again, I'm a believer in Thai hockey. Honestly, I think they're making nice moves. They're doing some cool stuff. Okay, so Thailand in this tournament, when they came out short, they beat Kuwait. I remember this one, 57-0, and I'm pretty sure.
God.
And I'm pretty sure Kuwait forfeited. Kuwait had one of the biggest players I've ever seen in my life on their team. I could not believe it. I think he was like 6'2", 16 years old, and like 270 pounds or something. I've never seen anything like it. Then they beat Iran 23-0. They beat Malaysia 33-0, and then beat Thai. Then they lost to Uzbekistan 7-5. Then they beat Mongolia 7-4 in the semifinals, and then lost in the final to Uzbekistan 2-1. Uzbekistan beat Iran 19-0, then beat Malaysia 29-0, then beat Thailand 7-5, then beat the UAE 12-0, and then beat Thailand 2-1 to win the whole thing.
54.
54. Yes.
54.
And yes, the Thailand-Kuwait game is uploaded on YouTube. The whole tournament is on YouTube, and I loved it. I had so much fun watching that tournament. I mean, my Yaserbek Rustam Konov fan club, rise up.
Dude,
forever.
That's more points scored than in most football games.
Yes.
Or in some football games.
Yes.
Even the fact that it's in some football games, like in a fairly standard amount.
Just for the record,
oh boy,
5 players on Thailand had 10 points, or 6 players had 10 points or more. One of their defensemen had 7 goals.
What?
They had a forward who had 7 goals and 6 assists. Nobody had fewer than 2 points in the game.
Oh my God.
Only 4 players had fewer than 5. Defenseman Panyavad Shripatchai was a plus 21 in one game.
Plus 21.
Nacha Yathorn Yanakorn Thanapunt, who is a Discord favorite of ours as of today, plus 19, 14 shots on goal, only 1 power play goal. So there's that.
That is
Nacha Yathorn. I don't know if I'm butchering that name, but he's a fun watch. He played for the Thai national team last year a little bit.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and he's got 4 points. He's got 4 goals in 2 games for the national junior team this year. As a guy who just turned 17, he's a lot of fun.
Alrighty, man.
Anyway,
we got to start.
Let's move on.
Blazing through these now.
Yeah. Who's your favorite character on this season of Survivor without any spoilers? That's a good question.
Either
Teeny's
Sam or
the person I
Kyle.
want to hang out the most with. I feel like the person I want to hang out the most with is Teeny.
Really?
Yeah, but
I don't know.
But the person I like the most, like the favorite character.
You
said
Saul.
Kyle or Sam?
You like
Saul. Saul was cool.
Solomon, yeah.
Yeah, Solomon. That's a big one.
Honestly, those are my 3: Kyle, Sam, and Saul. Probably.
Sam's been a good one.
I would not want to hang out with Rome. I'd pull my hair out.
No, I'd walk out of the room. No offense to him. Okay. Someone just commented Juan Soto. He's making a lot of money.
Yeah, it was when you were talking about Elon Musk's money. Like,
right. Yeah, Juan Soto could write us if Juan Soto's listening, maybe buy us 100,000 coffees. Like, that's not that much, it's not much.
Yeah, it's not much. Please.
The crazy thing to me about that Juan Soto contract is that it's $0 were deferred. Shohei Ohtani was deferring, like, I think it was a ton of money that he's just like not getting paid right now. Soto is getting paid all of that money during the term of that contract.
Mm-hmm.
That is insane.
Well, he won a World Series already too.
I know. I'm not saying he didn't deserve it. I'm just saying, like, geez, it's crazy. Baseball's getting out of control. I love it.
Well, one day I hope the NHL has that much money, man.
Well, who was it? You who sent me the thing of Cale Makar is making less than Rob Blake did when Rob Blake made the most money made in a season.
I would not have sent you that.
Yeah, someone sent me that the other day, and I was like, that's true. Like, NHL salaries in the 90s, there's a salary cap for a reason. Like, it was crazy back then. Like, it was, yeah. Given your love for Asian hockey, what were your thoughts on Yuri Terao? Wow, Yuri Terao while playing in the USHL. That is a throwback. I wasn't around long enough to see Yuri Terao in the USHL, so I can't really say. But you know, I don't remember watching him in 2015-16, honestly. But I'll support any Japanese hockey player because they play fun hockey. They play AJ hockey, top and bottom of lineup.
Hell yeah.
Who's changed their talent the most between Nichushkin and who is Mike Dean?
Yeah, I have no clue who that is. Sorry.
I don't know who that is. Okay. Power was at 7 on Dauber's final list.
Yep.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Who has been
Tony,
your biggest?
Tony headed up that list, okay? Tony was the direct.
That's true.
I remember arguing for Luke Hughes above Power. That's right.
Yep.
I remember arguing for it.
Who's been your biggest risers and fallers since the year started? So Ryabkin has plummeted. Ben Kindle has risen a lot. Eric Nilsson has raised a lot for me. Cullen Potter. Actually, no, not Cullen Potter. I had him high going into the year. Who else?
Carter Bear?
No, I actually had him pretty high going into the season. I liked him last year. Bill Zonen, I think, is another one I've liked a lot more as the year goes on. Arvid Drutt in Sweden. Logan Hensler's dropped quite a bit, but not a ton. Adam Banak has dropped quite a bit, but not too much. So I like Harry Nancy a lot. You'll see Harry Nancy pretty high on my list, and that will surprise people.
That's a funny name.
It is. He's great. I love Harry Nancy. He's great. Scott Wheeler reported that Tanner Howe and Bo Akey will be scratches tonight, along with Bonk, Jaeger, and others, and that they have the inside track onto Team Canada. I mean, I believe it. I could see it. I think Howe could play down the lineup, and yeah, like you said, like a leadership role there for him too. Yeah, he's a good grindy boy. He can make things happen. Bo Akey's a pretty good skating defenseman who can get around really well, and Bonk and Jaeger are definitely making the team. They were there last year, so you can basically guarantee that everyone on the team last year who's there now are going to be on it. Do you have any thoughts on the 2026 eligible Keaton Verhoff? He always stands out to me. I love Keaton Verhoff. He's great. I mean, at the U17s, him, Ryan Lynn, and Mathis Preston were excellent. Landon DuPont was pretty good too, but I thought those three guys really, really shined. Verhoff is big and rangy and has some skill and a pretty good wrist shot from the point. Like, he's just a rock solid defenseman too. I think he brings a lot of good traits to the game. Mike Dean is a 90s rap producer turned psychedelic synth producer. Well, then I would say Mike Dean, because anybody who makes psychedelic synth music is I listen to, like, when I'm working, I will put on hour-long playlists of just psytrance, like mushroom trip music, just so that my brain can keep firing, and I'll just let that run all day if you want to see an inside track on what my life is like during the day.
Just shrooms, baby.
Well, I don't actually do mushrooms all day, but the music that supposedly people listen to while doing mushrooms is what I listen to all day. I'm a huge Milton Yastreen fan and see more upside with him than Brady Martin. I'm with you. I agree. Is the 2007 and 8 NTDP some of the weakest ever? 2007 is not great, and watched most of the yesterday and today, and they're dull. Yeah, I mean, it's not a great couple of years. I think it's correlated to a low registration number for that birth year in general in the OS. I do think the 09s that are out there percolating, according to Puck Preps people, are pretty good, but that's the most famous thing you could say about a draft class or a class of players is they're great. And then you wait a year and a half and you're like, I am ready for the next one. Those ones are really good.
That happens every year. It's like, I'm ready to be done. Give me a new set of players that I can be disappointed with.
Yep. An obscure league I've been watching is the German Oberliga. Why? Okay. They have goofy logos, and I don't know if it's the camera angle, but the ice looks massive. Yeah, it's probably the camera angle up in the rafters, like Denmark does that. So it makes the ice look huge, and they probably use a really wide angle lens, which messes with the optics. I mean, the Oberliga is a good place to play if you are looking for a job. I know some people who played there, and they said it was a lot of fun, and the fans are good, and the money is okay. It's a fun, and like if you're a good NCAA or like a really good Division III player and you go to the Oberliga, you can hang out in Germany for a season and have a good time and score a point a game and be a hero for a season, you know? Like, it's not so bad. Yeah, and Germany seems like a decent place to live.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is Jackson Smith this year Sam Dickinson? I like him more than Dickinson, honestly. Like, I think Smith's ability to get around the ice and his physicality is way better than Dickinson's. I don't think he moves the puck passing wise as well. I think I like Smith more than Dickinson. This year's Dickinson to me may be more of like Logan Hensler kind of thing. But I don't think Logan Hensler has the same talent profile. Like in terms of upside or current ability. Okay. I remember checking those games out. Oh, the tournament out in Asia. Kuwait looked like an inner city hockey team who wasn't very interested in hockey, especially the big boy on that team. Well, that big boy was an assistant captain, I believe. But yes, they were. I don't think they even brought 3 lines worth of players either. And I'm pretty sure they left the tournament early. They didn't even finish all their games. But yeah, anyway, Kuwait did not have a good time. They did have some pretty cool jerseys, though. They looked like medieval clowns out there. And I mean that respectfully. It was really cool. Bruno Idzon's going to the USHL. Oh, that's cool. The greatest Croatian player to ever play the game is added to the USHL. I like Bruno Idzon. I hope he figures it out because he was too good for where he was playing this year and wasn't moving the needle enough last year in the junior league in Sweden. So hopefully the USHL is a good spot for him. I'll be watching. I'm curious because I've always liked Bruno. Norway is going to throw the D1A tournament. Yeah, so if you're not aware, the Division 1A tournament is going on right now for next year's World Juniors. I thought it was going to be Norway's to run away with this year with the talent they have, but they are not going to do it. It's not going to happen. They are currently sitting in 3rd place. They won their first game against Hungary, their last game against Hungary, they won. They won a game against Slovenia, which is when you have to win, but they lost to Austria, and Austria is undefeated. So it looks like unless Austria, it's got to probably come down to Austria playing Denmark on the last day, on the 15th, to see who gets through. But if Norway beats Denmark in regulation and Austria loses against Hungary, which is unlikely because Hungary has only scored 3 goals in 3 games and they've been scored on 11 times. It's been a really low scoring series, honestly. But I haven't seen much of it, but I'm kind of sad that Norway won't be in the tournament next year for the World Juniors because they've got some fun players. And I don't know who's on Austria. I feel like Austria is going to get absolutely shellacked. So that's unfortunate. Where do you think Rubrek would go in the draft? And then we're going to call it a day. Well, I'm not a huge fan of Rubrek, but probably like late 1st, somewhere in there. Like I don't want to spoil who's in that range for me, but like somewhere between 25 and 35, probably. Anyway, he's a big shooty boy with some skill. But anyway, that's going to be it. I've got to go get some food because we have no food in my house, and I got to go out to Costco and brave the cold, do that whole thing. Thank you very much for joining us. Again, we're brought to you by Fanatics. You can use our affiliate link in the description or scan the QR code in the video to provide a kickback on anything you buy in the store. Puck Preps Hockey also supports the show where you can get all your NCAA and CHL prospect needs with the World Junior A's going on right now. You can check that out over there, as well as Fractal Hockey Consulting to get player analysis packages and recruitment packages for the NCAA Europe and beyond. And of course, Scouching.ca, where a subscription at any tier gets you early access to subscriber-only written content, plenty of other cool stuff like a Discord server, and if you upgrade to a partner, you will get prospect data, insights into my track data, and all kinds of other cool stuff you can check out there. So we also have a merch shop, Scouchwear.com, which is in the description. You can check that out. And again, Elon Musk, Juan Soto, Steve Ballmer,
Austin Matthews,
Mark Cuban, whoever the president of Brunei Darussalam is, that guy who has
Galen
$1 bajillion.
Anybody with money, please.
Hassan al-Bolkiah, if you're listening, he has apparently got a net worth of $30 billion. I'd like to have some of that. That'd be cool. You can do that over at Buy Me a Coffee, and the link is in the description. So thanks very much. This was a lot of fun, and we'll see you Monday night for a very special edition where Tony and I will be where we will be releasing our rankings. publicly, the top 32, and then we'll share the rest afterwards. But anyway, I'll let you finish.
No, I was just gonna force you to promo the draft stream because that's gonna be fun. Be there.
It is.
8
It will be a lot of
p.m.
fun.
Eastern time, the best time zone.
Yep.
All right, because this came up last time. It is the best time zone. Don't care. You know why? You know why it's the best time zone?
Because Toronto is in it.
Because the Leafs are in it. All right, go Leafs, go! Plan the parade.
One moment before we go, I do want to do one more thing. I'm going to make the live stream now for Monday night, so people in the chat, if they want to watch it, can save it and hit the reminder button now while they are here.
Okay.
How about that? I just thought of that now. I'll take 2 seconds. And if you want to watch it on Monday night, you just open the link that I will put in the chat and you will be reminded before we go on the internets. Okay, there we are.
You've got it?
It's just creating it now.
Yeah, because usually it ends with me saying something completely ridiculous about the Leafs and then
something offensive, yes.
Yeah, and then nobody being able to respond into it quickly enough before I leave the air. So I can get out scot-free without any criticism.
Yep.
Now I'm open to it.
So there's your link. You can save it for Monday night. You can do that anytime between now and then, and we'll see you then. It's going to be a good time. So have a great weekend. Party on. Be safe, you know. Happy Crimbus. Have a festive season or whatever holiday you choose to celebrate. And we'll see you then.
I'm going to celebrate the Leafs winning the Stanley Cup. All right. Plan the parade.
Christmas.
Yeah. Early. It's coming early, baby.
All right. Coming early.